Christ is risen. I am Father Czesław Krysa, rector of St. Casimir Church in Buffalo, New York. The absence of masses, particularly on Sunday, and the celebration of sacraments and the lack of them in almost 50% of the world has raised a discussion on the domestic church, or the place of prayer, the church at home. I'm jumping into this conversation with these series of videos, this being the introduction. Once when I encountered a group of Catholic contractors, I asked them, and builders, I asked them, did they ever plan a prayer corner or some place in the house as a part of their architectural plan in building a home? I got an answer of blank stares, like, what is he asking about now? Well, I drew inspiration on asking that question from a number of Filipino families who dedicated a part of their home, a section of their home, a place in their home, sometimes even a niche, to honor the Santo Niño or divine child, very significant to Filipino spirituality. Do we have a separate permanent place in our home where God is recognized and acknowledged? That's one question. The second inspiration comes from St. John Paul, who literally unearthed a new title, or an ancient title from the patristic period of the family, the micro-church, going on later to describe the family as the domestic church, and making that a statement in official church teaching in 1981. This inspires this particular series. And so therefore I ask the question, how does this happen? What are the elements, or how does a family proclaim it is a domestic church? I would like to suggest that primarily this is done by dedicating a separate area in the home, a permanent place, a visible, accessible place in the home, to the installation of a heaven door. What is a heaven door? Well, we'll be discussing that next week. But the heaven door in particularly draws significance from being placed near and close to, or in the proximity of, the family table, the place where most of the family gathers together, even that being an island in the kitchen, somewhere near to where there's a lot of interaction and maybe even meals are shared. Why? Because Jesus Christ himself willed that the world be saved and transformed and restored at a meal. We all know that meal to be the Eucharist, particularly the Lord's Supper on the Lord's Day. The presence of the heaven door near the place where a meal is shared is extremely significant to the spirituality of the domestic church. Why? Well, you remember another saying of St. John Paul, as goes the family, so goes the nation. I would add, as goes the meal, so goes the family. So therefore, if Christ wills the transformation of the world through a meal, if we as baptized parents and children are able to pray and celebrate at home and proclaim boldly the presence of God through a heaven door at home, relationships may be restored. Yes, I believe that the rise of the domestic church, as one priest already has said, is where the renewal of our church in these days will happen. I believe this will happen through the installation of a new kind of door called the heaven door. Next week, more about that and more information on our YouTube channel, St. Casimir Worship is the name of the YouTube channel, and much of the information as to the blog as well, because auxiliary tandem material is found in the article in our blog, are all given at the end of this particular description of this video on St. Casimir Worship, the YouTube channel for this series. Christ is risen.